Morning. How are we all doing today? Welcome to Dope Conversations. This is our inaugural podcast host. Nice to meet everybody out there in the Latrice. I am a 40 something ish, over the halfway point kind of number person. I have a couple boys. I'm a teacher. I love the outdoors and I love writing. And I like talking a lot of stuff too. So here we go. All right. So up next we have Charmaine.
Hi, I am Charmaine, and I am proudly a 48-year-old mom of 3, wife of 1, social worker with children in the state of Georgia. And I am looking forward to doing this podcast with my 2 best friends.
I'm so glad that
Next.
You're a wife of 1.
Right. I was like, when she goes out, but look, truth be told,
Look.
more than one would be nice, but then
Right. I know. I wouldn't want to deal with more than one, honestly.
Hi, everybody. I am Charlie. I am a 45-year-old and a mother of one beautiful daughter, and a grandmother of one beautiful grandson. I am an owner and operator of a commercial real estate company called Old Charlie LLC. So a lot of the things that I will talk about will come from a financial and investment perspective. I'm also a career naval officer. So very proud of that heritage as well, and a life insurance agent. My interests are I love to read and write and hike and travel.
So today we are going to start off talking about some of the current things that are going on in the world, and then we'll dive into our blog discussion this week. And at the conclusion, we'll wrap up with something sweet from everybody. So everybody knows that right now the world has gone to caca. We have seen an assault on the nation's capital. Impeachment papers are flying. There is hot debate, a great amount of division between the people of the country. And we have no idea what this is going to come out to be. It's like you're living in the middle of seriously history happening right now. We don't really understand what this is going to be. But I would love to hear you ladies' opinions about it. And because I know Charmaine has been stressed out all week watching every drop of information she can get her hands on. But so I'm gonna kick it to her. What are you feeling, thinking?
I think I over-obsessed over all the events over the last week, coming off of the week prior where we had the raid on the Capitol, and I just consumed, I think the day of the impeachment trial, I pretty much watched it all day, and I was surprised about how many Republicans did not vote for impeachment. I thought it would be more split amongst the Republicans, and we only got 10 votes for impeachment. And but then I realized that it was affecting me psychologically because I didn't want to leave the house. I think I had created a fear of going outside. My job, I'm a field social worker, so I have to go outside. So I found if I didn't have an absolute reason to go outside, I wasn't going outside.
See, for me, that's why I told you a long time ago, I can't watch all that mess. I can't. So I just knew this stuff happened and I was at work and I was like, okay, I will find out later. And then when the next thing happened, I'm going to call Charmaine because I know Charmaine watched all of it. She done read all the articles and did all the stuff. Mm-hmm. But one of the things I thought was crazy was that I was listening to I did listen to a few things here and there, and it's I wasn't surprised that a lot more didn't join the other side. I wasn't. What did you think, Charlize?
Yeah, I found it very interesting. Again, I introduced the fact that I'm a career military professional and all of the discussion about the role of the military or retired military participating in it. And it just made me think about the power of mob mentality and how many times many of us naturally go with the group. And I think if I come from a military perspective, we really are trained to do that, really not question authority and just go with the group. And I think what we saw last week was how dangerous that can be if you don't have the ability to take a step back and really understand and process what you're really doing and what you're really going along with. And then I think the second thing that it really highlighted is the power. I don't even know if I want to use the word power, but just where we've come in regards to party politics. Because I mean, at the end of the day, we have political parties that it really doesn't matter what the party is doing. If you're affiliated with that party, you go along with whatever is going on, no matter how outrageous it is. And I think that's just really dangerous that this is where we are. And I think as we move forward, we really have to look at that, because the response to some of this is going to be just as important than the fact that this is where we are and the things that last week happened.
Right. The thing that surprised me is like some of the Republicans don't want any kind of accountability for this. They don't want the idea that like, oh, we just need to move on and heal from this without. You cannot possibly heal from something if no one's been held accountable. That's just like somebody robbing your house or killing somebody in your family, and you're going to forgive them and heal, and they ain't even been punished.
Right, no accountability.
That part was the part that got me.
Concept as a leader, but again...
The other thing that really bothered me about all of this was the fact that I was hearing that as of late that Republicans have been receiving death threats if they were going to go against Donald Trump. So people within the party are being held hostage by the mob of the party. You know what I'm saying? And I don't even know that it's necessarily the majority of the people in the party.
Right, and that's what it is. It seems like the Trump supporters are not a large percentage, but they're the loudest and they're the most vocal right now, and they're the ones getting the most attention.
They're going to threaten people's lives to direct how they vote. They're going to threaten people's families to control and get things done their way. And that's not how things are supposed to work here. That's not how it's supposed to be. It's not, you're not supposed to be walking around with a bulletproof vest on and you are a senator or a congressperson threatened to kidnap and try to kidnap different politicians and do things because they won't do what you want them to. That's not how it works. Even if you vote for a person, that person is still an individual who can make decisions. And if you don't like them, when their term is up, you don't vote for them. That's the options that you have. You don't have the right to threaten people's lives and force them to bend to your will.
I think so. Leadership is so powerful, and the Republican Party for a while has kind of deflected the fact that accountability within leadership is not important. It was all about the results of whatever
others were doing.
Trump was doing, but never allowed him to accept the responsibility and accountability of being a leader. And that's so very dangerous, because leadership sets the tone.
It does, because I'm gonna tell you,
I hope moving forward that the majority of the Republican Party and the Democratic Party per se really, as they move forward, recognizes the fact that leadership is important. Having people in political power that is able to be responsible and accountable and have the morals, the values, and the character to be able to lead is just so important. If not, we're going to continue to be in a cycle of very dangerous situations and hijacked by fringe individuals who could care less about what's best for the party or the best for the people in which they're serving, and it's all about serving their own agenda, and that's very dangerous when you enter into public policy,
Right.
the public arena.
It's like, I'm former military too, and so to me, leadership matters. Leadership is everything. And I've seen it where people have a good leader and a good, good platoon, good group, you know what I'm saying? And everything works great. You can take those same people and give them a bad leader and it's terrible. They don't know what to do, where to go, and how to be. And so leadership is everything. And I've said this from the beginning. He's not a good leader.
Commanding officer, somebody who served as a commanding officer and is getting ready to command another organization. You are the leader and the commander of that organization until you leave. And if you do something, you do not deflect the accountability for what you do while you serve at any point. You could do something the last day and you're still going to be held accountable for
Yes.
it.
We are focusing today on Charlie's blog about building a legacy budget for this new year. All right, so I'm gonna let her kind of intro and kind of discuss the overall, and then we're gonna chime in because we all need help with this money thing, girl. I'm still, I'm trying to get my life right, and since you're the expert, I'm gonna defer to you. All right, let's go, girl.
Hey, so my introductory blog is a series that is centered around educating people on the importance and how to establish a legacy wealth budget. And the whole premise is that we have to do better with our money. We're working hard for a reason. And if you've gotten to the point where you have children, if you're married and you have children, you want the things that you're doing today, we have to be mindful of the fact that that's going to have generational impact. If you're doing great things with your money, that will have generational impact. If you're not doing great things with your money, you're teaching your kids habits and behaviors that will have generational impact. And so, we as a community, and I'm going to come from an African American perspective, we as a community will fail to have our voices heard and be the power that we can be in this country if we don't figure out how to be a more economically viable force. This is a capitalist country that respects groups of people who have a solid economic foundation. We as a people, we're making more money than we ever have in history. We have the money behind us as a community, but we're not growing our wealth. And so money, salaries, income is very different than wealth and what is sustainable and what you can pass on for generations. And so that's what that is my purpose, to really get people to think and understand how to grow and accumulate wealth so that we can have more financially solid families and communities that can have our voices heard and respected in this country. And so there were 4 elements that I started off talking about as to how to build a budget that will enable your legacy wealth plan. That is having emergency savings. It's amazing how many people in this country just don't have emergency savings. So when something comes up, your whole financial
shifts. You got to shift everything. You got to do things that detrimental to your health.
Operating from a place of desperation that will allow you to take additional measures that will only put you in further financial distress. So the importance of having emergency savings. People want these get rich quick schemes and they want to jump to, where can I invest my money so that I can make more money?
Right.
My first question is, do you have an emergency savings? And a lot of times that they don't. And I never encourage people to invest, especially in long-term investment vehicles.
See, we talked the other day to have, a little nest egg or something because I don't have anybody I could reach out to. And then I am not the best with finances, but I also know I've fortunately never had to take out a payday loan or anything like that because I know how those practices work. And so I knew I didn't have a lot of options because I don't want to go that way. And then I don't have the option to reach out to, family or somebody that can help me. So I've always had to have like at least enough to cover a few months in the bank.
Right.
And there was one point where I didn't have that. Like when I first got divorced, and like, dude, if anything goes wrong, everything is like tied in a knot. Lights gonna be off because you got to take money from here to go there, or and usually that's a terrible stomach wrenching position to be in.
And people tend to think it's an all or nothing approach. Like, well, somebody told me I need 6 months of emergency savings. There's no way I'm gonna get 6 months of emergency savings. So, or living expenses as my emergency savings. So I'm not gonna even try to have an emergency savings. And so I tell people to factor that into your budget. $25 a paycheck accumulated over time will go a long way. And a lot of times these emergency situations aren't necessarily things where you need 6 months of living expenses to cover. A lot of times it's a car repair, a couple $100 car repair, or a emergency dental bill, or if you have pets, your pet got sick and they needed to go to the vet. So a lot of times a couple of $100 in emergency savings would have gone a long way if they had it. So the key is to get started and build your savings.
The thing though, that's the thing, how like I like the fact that you mentioned the all or nothing mindset. It's like that is a thing that people really feel. They feel like, oh well, if I can't do it the way that it's written down in the completion stage, right? Like at the top of the the pinnacle, if I can't do it that way, then I just won't do it at all. And to me, I don't understand why we are that way, because honestly, I don't have 6 months in my emergency savings. Now, I did have to dip into my emergency savings. Prior to this, I would have said I had about 5 months, but I had an emergency. And so I had to use some of that money, and now I'm down, but I have a strategy to build it back up over a period of time. And so it's like, right. It doesn't have to start off, right now. It's called a savings. You put money into it, you save it, and you build it up. I don't know why people think,
and so I think
it has to be like, I gotta
and
have.
I'll speak for the people who is in that column, because for people who don't know, me and Charlie are sisters, and we have way different approaches of how we govern our household economy. And so I am that person who has been really guerrilla with my household when I was single and in college, when I was a single mom in college. I did whatever I had to do to stay afloat, but within that, because I felt like, you seize the day. If I wanted to travel, I wanted to travel. If I wanted to go buy something, I wanted to buy something, and I'll figure the rest out later. As long as I had money to cover the rent, the utilities, and had food on the table, to me that was important. That was my priority. But as that being my priority, I was not intentionally, but I had realized that I was becoming a burden on my family, because if I needed, like when the electricity was going to go out, I would have to go ask someone to borrow some money to pay the bare minimum on my electric bill to keep it from going out. And then as I matured over the years, and then I got married, and you try to be a lot more responsible with your finances. But because I never adapted that philosophy of having a emergency budget, emergency savings. When emergencies did arise, again, you would tap into your resources of family and friends and saying, hey, this came up, can I borrow, or can I get some, can you help me out, and you don't realize the psyche that has and how it affects your family relationships, how it affects your friendships and things like that. Because even though you appear to have it all together and you're doing, it's not like I'm out here jetting off out of the country every other week, or buying Louis Vuitton bags and doing crazy stuff. It's still taking me time to figure out how to
Knowledge is power, right? Knowledge
Right.
is power. And a lot of times we never had the conversations about money and healthy budgets and, you know, how to be responsible with our money. And a lot of the times we're just figuring it out. And so that's the power of what we're doing right now is there's going to be a lot of people who find themselves relating to the things that we're talking about. And hopefully something is being said that will help somebody. And I'll just, as we move on from the emergency savings, I'll just say that your budget should reflect your priorities. So all the money you make, it should reflect, if traveling is important to you, you should absolutely factor in a travel budget into your budget, as well as emergency savings. And there's a way to do all of that. There's no one way. Everybody's budget is unique to them and their priorities and what's best for them and their family. But there should be some key elements in there that is foundational so that it sets you up for success. And that's what I discuss with people when we talk about a budget. I'll turn it over to Latrice for one additional comment, and we'll move on to the next element of our budget.
For me, I think it came down to the fact that I was homeless for a period of time in my young life. And that fear of being in that place and in those places, I was just like, I don't care. I had my job at McDonald's. I had a savings. I'm gonna tell you, I had a job at McDonald's. I had a savings account at a bank downtown that I did not have a debit card to, that closed at 5:00. So I wasn't gonna be able to get the money. You know what I'm saying? I created ways, because that's the thing. I think people have to understand their weaknesses and then set up tools to help you overcome those weaknesses. So that's what I did. I knew I would be hanging out with my friends, and I'm a giver. So whenever I go out, if I got extra money, girl, I got you. You know what I'm saying? Right. So I done spent all my money. And so I put $500 in that bank account. And then
I need to do that every time.
And so I had to set up like little rubrics and boundaries and borders to force myself into that place, because I knew I needed that, you know. But
that's excellent to remind people. You have to know yourself, and you have to make sure that whatever you put in place is something that works for you.
It works for you.
Yeah.
Right.
And that takes self-reflection and being really honest with yourself about your habits and what you're capable of. Because I knew I was gonna spend it if I got access to it, it'll be gone.
You was gonna spend it. Right.
So all right.
Let's talk about the second element of our budget, which is life insurance protection. And if 2020 did not highlight the your impermanence, that people is not staying on this earth forever, and I don't know what will. I don't know how many stories we've heard last year about people who unexpectedly died and young, had family and children with no life insurance. So not only were the families having to grieve the unexpected loss of a loved one, but then they had to figure out how to deal with the loss of the income and pick up the pieces. Not even just the fact that they had to deal with the loss, but then they had to bury them and cover the final expenses. And then now I got to figure out, how do I move forward without an income that we had planned our life around? And so life insurance is so important, and everybody needs life insurance, but life insurance is tailorable based on what your unique family experiences is. If you have no children, if you have no spouse, you definitely don't need as much life insurance, but you need to still have a policy in place that's going to cover your burial and your final expenses. And so, I really, if you don't have a life insurance policy in place, and for some reason people think that life insurance is optional or very expensive, and you can have a burial insurance policy, just a burial final expense policy, for as little as $10 a month. And so $10 is well worth the cost to not have to allow your family to go through the process of grieving you, having to go on GoFundMe and whatever to figure out how to bury you and cover final expenses. And then if you have children and a spouse, now they have to figure out how to live without you so unexpectedly. And for some people, that can just be absolutely life-changing in the negative sense. And
Yeah.
so today my blog will be posted about life insurance, but I'll turn it over to you ladies to talk about any experiences that you had going through 2020 or not about the importance of life insurance.
Yeah, the emergency that I had this year where I had to use money from my emergency savings was when my mother passed. When she passed away, before she passed away, we had several conversations, and she indicated to me that she had life insurance, you know, and she was like, "Oh, I'm getting a new policy and this policy, you know, da 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 da," and I was like, "Great, you know," but the reality was that when she actually passed away, she had let those policies expire. So I found the policies when I went through her things, and I reached out to the insurance companies, but she hadn't paid the premiums, and the premiums really weren't a lot. Like you said, they were like maybe 30, $40 a month for her because she was older, you know, and so there was no money to pay for things. And again, I'm one of those people like, I'm not gonna do the GoFundMe and, you know, da 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 da. And fortunately, her wishes were not extravagant as far as funerals and burial and all that other type of stuff. So I was able to pay for her to be, you know, cremated and things like that. But to have a memorial costs a lot. You know, you got to pay for a place. You got to, you know, and now with the COVID and all these other things, you got to kind of calculate in and the travel to get there and do all this stuff because she was out of state. And so it's like that extra cost, it adds up really quickly. It adds up really, and it's like just even the time that I was there, that was expenses that wasn't calculated into my monthly budget. Because I had literally just was visiting her, and then so now I got to go back. I got to, you know, stay all these days and do all these things. And so by there being no policy, that was just all costs I incurred on myself, you know? And so while I was fortunate and glad that I was capable of doing it, you know, a lot of people aren't going to be able to do that.
And it adds additional burden and stress. I mean, you know, just think how different would that situation have been if there was a life insurance policy in place.
It was, we had planned on it. We're like, oh, she got life insurance. This is nothing. Right. You know, we divvying out this, that, and the other. Like, oh, it's going to be great. And then all of that evaporated the next day with one phone call.
Right. And we didn't have that experience this year, but several years ago, my husband, Walter's father passed away, and we knew he didn't have any insurance. So when he came back to St. Louis, he came back sick. He was already in a skilled nursing facility, and he had terminal cancer. And we had decided as a family that we would look at donating his body to for research, because no one had the funds to really pay for a cremation, or definitely not a burial, because a burial at that point, at the very minimum, if we're looking just at a cardboard box and having a casket just there for the service, and then the actual cheaper casket to burial, the bare minimum, we're looking at $7,000. And we didn't have the emergency funds, or even if we had the emergency funds, honestly, I don't think we would have used it for that. So cremation was the option that we went to. Weren't aware of, you know, schools can reject the body. And so we were, a few weeks later, we were told, well, I think it was SLU at the time, didn't want the body. And so we had to come up with the cremation cost. And so I think that was at a point, thank God we were stable financially. We did have a emergency savings, and we were able to assume that expense. None of Wallace's siblings was financially able to pitch in. Yeah. And so, you know, we took on that expense, and, you know, that meant no summer trip that year for the kids. And, which was, relatively, it was okay. Everyone understood what needed to be done. But the emotional side of that is also a part of it, because you're talking about a man who had an estranged relationship with his children. And so Wallace had to deal with stepping up by being the oldest child and taking on this responsibility for a man he really did not know. And so, but he felt the need to be responsible for handling that expense.
Yeah, so definitely life insurance is important.
Life insurance is important, and a lot of people find themselves. I had to do that. I had to help with providing money to bury a father that I never really knew. And so a lot of people are put in that situation. But on the flip side of that, I do have friends who were able to benefit from to be able to benefit, not necessarily benefit from the death, but being set up for success to move their family's generational wealth forward.
My kids gonna ball out
by being able to benefit from.
I told them y'all gonna ball out if I die.
Had life insurance, whose life insurance policies paid off homes and made sure that their children's college tuitions were paid for, and it was life-changing for them. And so, so what is right for you and your family is up for you to decide. But when you consider life insurance as a part of a mechanism that can ensure generational wealth, it is a foundational element that I hope that everyone will consider.
Right. Real quick before we move on to the next subject, because me and Charlize had this conversation. Talk about the difference between having your life insurance that's supplied through your employment, that's connected with your employment, and having a different policy, and
I talk about that
and how important.
So most people, currently about 40% of adult Americans have life insurance. The majority of that life insurance is provided through your employer, which is a group life insurance policy. What that means is that when you're no longer employed with that employer, let's say you're fired unexpectedly or something like that, your life insurance benefits go away. And so if you're relying on life insurance benefits through your employer, and let's say you're with that company for a large majority of your adult life, when you retire, if they don't have something set up in your retirement compensation for that, now you're looking for insurance at a much older age, and the cost of life insurance then can be unaffordable for some people. So consider life insurance early, and consider having a policy outside of your group life insurance policy that is provided through your employer.
I got 3 of them things. I told you my kids gonna ball out.
It all
right,
and what's right for your family just depends on what is the essentials.
I ain't even gonna lie. I want my kids to come up. I want them to be set up. Like, I don't want them just to have enough money to pay to take care of myself. I want them to be able to have some money because I'm such a wonderful mother, they're gonna be devastated, right? That they needed some time to recover, and they will have the money to do so.
But for many people, that's how generational wealth grows.
And that's why I told them, don't be feeling guilty, because I heard some people say, like, you ain't supposed to benefit from your, no, you gonna benefit from my life. I live this life. And when I leave this earth, you gonna have some setup so you can live yours.
Right.
That's the way it's supposed to be.
With that.
But the other part of it is we have to give them the tools to take that wealth.
Right. Just make sure that your children are prepared for what you're planning for them to receive.
Right.
I talk with them about it.
Right. So they're not 45 jumping off in a rap career that they didn't get to do that.
All right.
That's a whole other block.
Right.
The next element is to invest for the future. We all have future goals and priorities. So whether it's funding a college tuition for your children, whether it's planning for retirement and what you're going to do after retirement, whether it's being able to put down a large down payment on a home, it's important to think about what your long-term financial goals are and to be investing for that. And so, so for me, when I started off my career as a naval officer, I knew one that you can't stay in the military forever. At some point, I'm going to have to transition from the military and embark on another career. And I knew I didn't want to work for anyone. So I started investing. It was called my entrepreneurial fund, so that when I transitioned, I could embark on another career. Now I have embarked on that career before I retired, but it's expensive to start a commercial real estate investment company. As a matter of fact, our first commercial property we paid cash for, and that property cost close to $1 million. Where did we get that money from? Well, me and my husband, we both invested and saved for that eventuality. And so a little invested over time. Like I wasn't raised a millionaire. My mom wasn't a millionaire. So where did we get that kind of money from? A little invested over time could go a long way. When I had my daughter, well, not right when I had her because I had her young, but when my daughter was still young, I planned for her to go to college. She had a college plan saved for her. Now, as a part of being in the military, I did not, it wasn't when I first started, but literally right as she was going off to college, I was able to transfer my GI Bill to her. So her college was largely paid for. But all the money that we saved, I was able to buy her a car. Well, I had to pay for her first year, then buy her a car, pay for other expenses, set her up in a home. So all of these things made the stress of her going to college and paying for very expensive things easier. And so investing for a future, a little now goes a long way, and using your money wisely will go a long way. So, so a part of your wealth budget, and you can start investing in the market for as little as $25 a month. And we all spend $25 on some bull every week.
But wait a minute, we now up to $50 because we got $25 going to the emergency fund. Now we got $25 going to our kids' education fund.
And insurance too.
And insurance. But this is all
and then we got money coming.
This is all
less. So now we up to $100. No, I'm being that other voice in the background.
The one thing I will say is the good thing is she said we start off with the savings, right?
Right.
And so then you start off with that, and you kind of do it gradually over time. Then you kind of roll these things in. Now I will say investing is a scary thing for me. So I do have a mutual fund that I invest in, a couple $100 a month, and I got a retirement thing that I put money into at work. And then, so I'm trying to decide I'm going to do something else. I want to do one other thing. And I was trying to decide if I should do an IRA. I'm terrified of doing stock market stuff. Like I got friends that day trade. That scares me. And so I'm
do what's comfortable for you. And so investing is not, there's all kind of ways to invest. And it's based on your risk tolerance and what you're comfortable with. And so if the market scares you right now, a lot of times it's scary because we don't understand it. So I encourage people to, one, expand their knowledge and make sure that they understand these different investment vehicles. So when I talk to and work with people, it always comes, knowledge has to be the foundation. If you just go to someone and you're just blindly doing what they tell you to do, they'll allow you to do it, but what they're not going to do is be like, if you lose money, they're not going to take responsibility and give you none of your money back. Like you're the owner of what the actions that you take, you have to be comfortable with it. So anytime, like right now, everybody's like, you need to invest in Bitcoin. I don't invest in Bitcoin because I don't understand Bitcoin. I made a lot of money investing in other options outside of Bitcoin. Now I will slowly take the time to understand it and research it. And maybe in the future it is a good option for me, but I don't understand it right now, so I'm not investing in it. And so, so you have to do what you feel comfortable with. And there are safer, even in the market, there are riskier options to invest your money in, and there's safer options to invest your money in. With increased risk comes increased return, and also increased risk means you can lose some of your money, if not all. There are definitely very safe investment vehicles. You may not grow your money as fast, but then you don't have to deal with the stress of wondering whether or not you're going to lose money. So those are definitely conversations you should have with someone that may be a little bit more knowledgeable, that will set you up to make sure that you have the knowledge that you need to make informed decisions that you can feel comfortable with and know that your money is working and doing the things that you need it to do. Because we all work hard for our money. I definitely don't have money that I'm just want to throw away. That's why I don't gamble.
Right.
Well, I might go buy me a lottery ticket though.
I bought two. I gotta check my lottery ticket.
Right.
If one of y'all
my way out last night.
Right.
I think I ain't gonna go broke buying lottery tickets.
Right.
They might get like $2 to $4. I think I can afford it, but that's the whole.
Right.
But we have to think about our future and then invest in vehicles that'll make us fund our future. If I had just put my money in a savings account over time, my money would have never grown to the point where I was able to step out and do some of the things that I'm doing now. The return on your investment in a savings account, even a high interest in savings account, will not grow at the rate of investing in the market or even in real estate. So
our target market
have and grow it and compound,
right,
and understanding the effects of
so Charlie, all of us are in our 40s, and so it's safe to assume that our audience will probably be, in their, between 30 to like 50 something or even older. What is your recommendation for someone in their 40s and they're investing?
Just to get started. Mm-hmm. And I don't make specific, I'm not going to call out a specific thing to do with investing, because investing is so unique to an individual. What is the appropriate investing platform for you is unique to what you're trying to do with your financial goals and your financial situation. So the majority of mine, I would say the majority, if you have enough knowledge, you can invest your own money and save a whole lot of money in fees and stuff like that. It's definitely doable. A lot of my investments are in index funds. If you don't understand index funds, research index funds. And if you want to have a discussion about index funds, feel free to contact me and we can talk about it. That's in investing. I said I'm a commercial real estate investor. A lot of my money is tied to real estate. I make a lot of money. Right. The market is hot right now. Anybody in real estate their property has accumulated in value. You have made a lot of money. You can pull money out of it. There are a lot of options you have with real estate. And if the Trump tax cuts don't get overturned, the whole tax structure is set up to benefit people who are invested in real estate right now. So it just all depends. So index funds, and
I'm gonna look into that, because like I said, I got a little bit of something I got that I can contribute and I want to do something with, so I'll look into that too. All right, so what is the next step?
The last one is eliminate debt. So you can be doing all of these things, but if you have more debt than you have invested, you are broke. Like, wealth is the accumulation of assets, and so if we accumulate too much debt, that can be detrimental to our wealth plan. So we have to factor into our budget is to pay down and pay off our debt, and there's definitely concerted strategies you can do for that, and then be very mindful about the accumulation of new debt. And so an element of that is to be aware of credit and having good use of credit, have healthy credit, so you're not paying more than what you need for essential things that we all have. Like I'm a real estate investor. I want to be able to have the best rates to buy real estate. While I can pay cash for certain properties, I don't want to tie up all my cash in properties. Money is leverage, and I want to have the ability to be able to leverage and maximize my leverage in having good credit helps me to do that. So debt is not always a bad thing,
Right.
but the majority of Americans have a lot of bad debt, a lot of credit card debt. A lot of us think that cars are investment options. They are absolutely not. That's bad debt. And so if it doesn't accumulate in value over time, it's not good debt. If it has high interest rates tied to that, that's bad debt. And so we have to have concerted strategies to eliminate our debt. A good strategy is called debt stacking. Look at your highest interest rate vehicles. If you have a very high credit card with very high interest rate, you want to target that and pay that off first, while maintaining the minimum payments on your other things, and then slowly pay all of those things off. But we absolutely have to eliminate debt, minimize accruing unnecessary new debt, so that we are growing wealth and not overshadowing the positive things we're doing by accumulating more and more debt.
Right.
Some of these COVID relief things to pay some of that debt down.
You go ahead and do that. You might find yourself getting audited and all this other kind of stuff, but whatever works for you. But
so all right, I don't really know. Like, what is, so I've heard, you know how like they're giving those stimulus checks out or whatever to people, right? But then some people, I've heard rumors, some people saying like, oh, you're gonna have to pay that money back, and then is that, because I was like saying, if you got a stimulus,
my accountant on that, and right now we're getting ready to go into tax season. Some people have already filed their taxes, and it's still not clear as far as the repayment of the stimulus. So so I wouldn't worry about that. The stimulus checks was something that you didn't have a choice.
Right.
That was pushed to you if you qualified for a stimulus payment. I didn't receive stimulus.
Because you rich, we know.
Right.
I ain't gonna say that, but if you did, I wouldn't worry about that aspect of it, because you have a choice. Like, you got to concentrate on the things you actually have a choice over.
I think it's more for the people who are going after the
like the PPE and things like that.
The small business.
You had to actively apply for it. You had a choice on these programs where you.
Yeah, I know some people who did it that might be able to do it. But so paying down debt is really important. And then usually like I'm pretty good with it. But right now I got 2 cars that are a little bit high, and I am working on paying them down. And my goal is to, by the end of the summer, have that paid off. And then I will be, other than my home, I will be pretty much debt free, because I don't have any car notes or any outstanding bills anywhere. No clothing bills, no furniture, nothing. So just these last 2 credit cards.
That's a good place to be. And like people always say that's easy for you to say, because you always have a nice car. But cars are not my priority. I haven't had a car note since 2003, and I will never have a car note. If I can't pay cash for it, I'm not. So some things I will pay cash for. I'm not car notes, that's just not my thing. Now, some people, that's a priority for them, so you have to factor that into your.
I love my car. It's good. I don't need another one. It works really great. It's great.
However it works. I mean, it lasts forever. Eventually, I'll have to buy a new car.
I think I'm gonna try to keep mine.
Right, and we're struggling because we kind of was like Charlize. Like, if we always adapted the philosophy, 1 car note at a time, but we will only purchase a car that we could pay off within a year. So we would buy something used and put a down payment on it, and then usually either a tax return or just double up on our car payments, because we're not buying luxury cars or anything like that. Something that we can pay off in a year, and then have that car and not have that taking away from our monthly expenses. But then, 2018, me and Wallace both ended up having to purchase cars. His truck that he's had since our youngest son was born. So he's had this 2001 truck since 2007 when Amari was born. That car gave out finally in 2018. And then I had a car accident where I was hit and my car was totaled out maybe 4 months later. So we weren't in a situation where we had the luxury of, usually we plan it out. We usually plan out when we buy our cars, and we both we had to buy fairly new cars and had to end up having 2 car notes. And for the first time, that has taken a chunk of our expense. That has been a big expense on us. So we're hoping to pay off at least one of eliminating debt is one of ours. His car, we're closer to off and pay that car off, and then have that car. And now we have a 16-year-old coming up.
Is a part of my budget. I budget for a car because eventually I'm gonna have to buy one. So that's a part of my budget. There's a whole separate account for, in the event I gotta buy a car. Here it is. And then, but car repairs, or if I get in an accident, and that's a part of my emergency budget. And so that is what emergency funds are for. And so that's why it's so important to have one, because if you don't and you get in a situation like that, that just throws your whole financial plan off. Where I have to,
and then on top of that, we had just bought my car. For the first time, I had bought a brand new car the year before. So I had this brand new car, and I had it just over a year, and it got totaled. So thank God we had gap insurance and all of that to cover the expense of that car, losing that vehicle. So we didn't have the added expense of having to pay for that car. But it still was like back to back.
Yeah.
Three cars in 2 years.
People find themselves in situations like that.
Right.
So I hope that the takeaway is that we change our mindset, because a lot of people think a budget is just paying your bills, just paying someone else. And that's not what a budget is about. A budget is a strategic plan for you to execute, to be able
I saw this meme today, and I thought it was really good. It says the best math you can learn is how to calculate the future cost of today's decision.
Yes.
And that's what budgeting is.
That what you do today has generational impact. It's biblical. And it's so true.
Right.
When it comes to money and other things that you have, so the whole thing is you have to be intentional. You have to be intentional with your money. You have to be intentional with the things that you're doing today, because that's going to set the foundation for a lot of things tomorrow. And it's not how much you make, it's what you do with it. I have friends who make a lot of money, over $200,000 a year, and it's still broke, living paycheck to paycheck. So a lot of people think you have to have all of this money to be able to have a budget that works for you. I have seen people who make $40,000 a year. Like, how in the world are you doing what you're doing with the money that you make? And so it is not how much money you make. It is about what your priorities are and what you're doing with it. And we're all charged with being good stewards in growing what we have. That is our mission to everybody here placed on this earth. And so if you aren't being intentional, and if you don't have a strategic plan that is enabling your growth, then you're going to stay stagnant. And if you're not growing, you're losing. If you're stagnant, you're losing. You're going to feel, you're not going to feel, nobody feels happy staying stagnant. So if there are any takeaways, what you do today when it comes to your money has generational impact. It's about what you do with it.
Well, I hope that people got something from this, and that we learned today to make decisions that impact our children and our grandchildren in positive ways. And speaking of positivity, let's go ahead and let's wrap this thing up with something sweet, a goal or something we want to do or achieve or something we're grateful for. I'll start us off. For me, my goal is I kind of shifted how I'm writing this year. So just to be really focused on my writing, to improve my finances, right? And to, possibly build my relationship, my personal relationship. All right. So what about you? Charmaine?
Definitely with Charlize writing her blog, I have really been very mindful of my finances. So me and Wallace have been looking at ways to cut some things from our budget, which we finally paid off a washer and dryer. And I have started looking for a second job because Wallace has a second job. And the goal for us both having a second stream of income is to build up a savings so we can purchase a house. And so I have an interview this evening. So wish me luck. And it's for telecommuting. I don't want to leave. I can't work doing retail anymore. I cannot be up on my feet doing that type of work. But I am I have my master's in counseling, so I will be putting that to use. And because of the pandemic, our field is in great demand. And so I will be interviewing to be a virtual counselor.
Awesome.
I love it.
I love it. I know. I didn't even know about this.
Yeah, she just holding on to
Right.
I thought we was close.
All right. What about you, Charlie?
You know, I'm going to keep it simple. I'm just so grateful for the gift of life. And I think I said during my discussion that we're constantly reminded about our impermanence. And, you know, unfortunately, yesterday, my best friend lost her child that she just struggled so hard to be able to conceive and have. And we were just so hopeful and so prayerful for the gift in the child, but you know, God had a different plan for him. And so it just reminded me that tomorrow isn't promised, and there was a reason why we are here, because we very well didn't have to be. And so I'm just grateful to be here, grateful for life, and I just pray that God allows me to make the most of the opportunity that he's given me. And he's given me so many. So I'm just thankful for my blessings. I'm grateful for life. I'm grateful for this forum to be able to reach people and to talk about something that I'm very passionate about. And I hope through this forum, through the blog and some other things that God is blessing me with, that I'm able to encourage someone to be more intentional and do better when it comes to their money and their finances, and really doing something today that will have generational impact on their family.
Oh, that was a beautiful way to close everything out. I think you're going to close it every time.
Right.
You got this. You got this. You got this. All right, ladies. It was beautiful. I'm looking forward to our next conversation where we will probably be discussing Charmaine's next blog. Yay. I just decided that right now. I don't even know where she went.
Okay. Right.
Right about her gift of counseling and being able to use it.
I know. And we didn't talk about that too. And she's good. She's good at what she does. All right. Thank you all.
I need some counseling. Can I call you after this, Charmaine?
Right.
I'm stopping the recording. Right. I just had to stop the recording. So we can go over a quick cap over what we talked about. We